This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning. Welcome to very dramatic skies here in Djuma Private Game Reserve. But through all the clouds, the blue sky is breaking through, and I really hope it stays that way. I love the rain, but it does make it rather tricky to drive in. So good morning, my name is Lauren, and I do have Davi on camera once again. And we've come along Vuotela Access just to check the west. There's only one vehicle driving on Djuma these days, and that's a WildEarth vehicle. Once the dam cam shifts are over and Rowan's back in the game, then of course there will be two. But it's still not a lot of traffic, so it's worth just to check some key areas and then naturally take it from there. I don't tend to drive the west. It's not my favourite place on the reserve, but it's definitely always worth checking. So we're going to keep bumbling just to check Vuotela Access. Then we will make our way to the hyena den, and then we'll take it from there. So just a big reminder to you all that this is live and interactive, which means you guys can talk to us. So please do send in your comments and questions using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, or you can register on the website and actually watch the drive from there and submit your questions in the chat. Oh, that's my coffee falling over. Or if you're under 18, please do send in your questions via email. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And there you have it. That's your options. Now, Vuotela Access is a main access road, not very attractive, but it's the main sort of gateway from the west to come into our property. So you could find Kara, Tavangumi, this is exactly where we used to find him, but he seems to prefer Bufosuk now. Tortoise Pan, Shidulu, that's probably your most likely candidates these days that are going to use the western side of the reserve. And as many of you know, I'm desperate to meet TP. I think everyone has met him, Barmy and Owen. So the only way we're going to find them is if we keep checking this side. Hopefully more vehicle traffic will come to Djuma soon, and then at least we can get better coverage. Although Djuma's not the largest property, it is still large for one car to get around. So I'm hoping that we can get a little bit more traffic and understand what's happening on the reserve. One thing I can tell you are the hyenas are everywhere. So as I bumble west, let's take a look at the weather.
Morning everyone, Rowan and I am on dam cam duty. So what I decided is, while we just check the weather, I might as well just show you the sunrise. As you can see, very, very pretty, but quite a few dark clouds rolling in. So strangely enough, yesterday the app was saying there's going to be no rain, and Odie and I just got absolutely drenched at one stage. We had to actually sit in a riverbed underneath a jackleberry for about 15-20 minutes or so and just wait for the rain to stop, and then it cleared up quite nicely. But this morning it said we are expecting rain, so yeah, holding thumbs Lauren doesn't get too wet. But as you can see, quite a nice morning to be out there. Of course, I'm not out there, I'm sitting in an office and watching the dam cam, and also competing a little bit with a few arrow-marked babblers that hopped into the office a little bit earlier. Luckily now they've moved off, so I can actually see them still out the window hopping around looking for any food. And yeah, so far Doesn't seem too much around the dam. I know there was a small flock of Egyptian geese, but we struggled to focus on it because they were walking just behind a bit of grass and the camera was focusing on the grass. We decided to just frame up a nice sunrise. It looks like quite a nice morning to be out there. It's not super hot. It's also not freezing cold. You can actually see the clouds shifting to the left. If I go down, it should brighten up the picture a little bit. And let's have a bit of a scroll around. Nothing seems to be around quarantine just yet. Good morning, Gia. Where are you watching from, Gia? So as you can see on the water, there's no rain yet. You're able to see the little ripples when the raindrops come down. So we'll keep you updated on that. Hopefully it doesn't come down too hard. We did take the roof off of Rusty this morning. Just hoping and praying for the best. You almost have to be optimistic. See one Egyptian goose. There's all of them, all the babies as well. Okay, so while I try to zoom in here, we're going to send you back over to Lauren, who's on a little bumble.
Nothing so far, Rowan. Good luck on the dam cam. I'm sure you'll find something, especially if the sun pops out. And I'm really not sure if it will. The apps say no more rain, but I'm not terribly convinced that they are accurate. Nothing in the west, no tracks. Lots of hyena tracks. The ground is still very hard, but I just think it's always worth checking. I get stuck in my little loop of always going to the hyena den because I want to catch activity there and forget about the rest of the reserve. Oh. Hello, boy. Let's see if I can go forward a little bit. I haven't seen a male kudu in a while. Female, yes. Look how easy he just disappears like that. He's a large animal. Hello, handsome. Completely disappears through the thicket. And it's not because of his disruptive markings. It is because the bushveld is just so thick. Deliciously thick. Okay, let's get Triple M out the way. Out of all the boundary lines that we have around Juma, Triple M is the busiest. It takes you directly to Gowrie Gate. So heavy traffic. Oh, James Richard, putting the pressure on. You're hoping for a leopard this morning. I would also love a leopard this morning. And my plan is to get to Chitwa. There's just a few things I want to check en route. Kuchava and Cub were moving north yesterday. They were on the Mala Mala boundary and they were starting to move north. So they could end up in Chitwa, but they could also end up on Cheetah Plains or even further east, depending on sort of which trajectory they chose. But I would really, really love to meet Kuchava's Cub, her little daughter. Semba hasn't been sighted in a while. I really think that boy, he was huge. When Ali and I spent time with him on Juma, I really think he was getting ready to sort of disperse a little bit and explore the world. So I'm going to keep bumbling south and hopefully get lucky.
So I've just been following the Egyptian goose and the chicks around the watering hole. Actually quite cute to watch, specifically because none of the chicks want to be left behind. So when the mother starts walking a little bit faster, you just see these tiny little geese trying to run and catch up. She's been busy this morning, walking up and down, up and down, up and down. The blacksmith lapwing that just flew across. Funny, so she's not feeding at all, but you can see all the chicks around her are feeding. The one is a little bit far off to the left, but it seems to be 6 of them. Oh, sorry, 7. 7 little babies. Quite a protective mother. And quite a raucous call if you get a little bit too close to her. They are quite wary, I say. Just wonder where the male is. Maybe he's on this side of the dam taking a little bit of a break from the kiddies. It's a very beautiful bird. Once you take a bit of time to actually just look at them. I used to like them when I was younger, because they kind of reminded me of holiday. They weren't as widespread as they are now. Now you just find Egyptian geese absolutely everywhere. Like they're taking over. But such cute little chicks. You can see not the color of the adult at all. This will only start appearing in quite a few months still. Oh, they're not following the mom anymore now.
I just realized this is the first time I've driven Triple M since coming back for the stint. The road itself is not so nice, but actually on the other side, you've got Juma on this side, you've got Arathusa on this side now, and it's actually really beautiful. It's really lovely, but the road itself is not so lovely. It's very bumpy. This is my first time driving it. It's a very good road for dogs as well, especially when dogs are crossing from the west to come further east. And clearly it's a good road for the Ellies. It's very bumpy. But we are going to take down the southern boundary and head to the Hyena Den. Get that named of Aardwolf, the next creature on my bucket list. Aardwolf 21. No, I don't actually. I really don't have many updates. It's very, very quiet in these parts. I don't have any update on lions, full stop. Apart from a few of the Nkupumas on a kill the other day. but I unfortunately don't. Being away for so long, it just really throws you out of the loop. But I will try and get updates for you as soon as I can. This dark cloud looks a bit scary. Hopefully it just passes over in the other direction. But I know that Dark Mane has been at Pungwe Camp, which is north in the Manguleti. We can't access there, I'm afraid, and he's been there for about 2 weeks, just sitting outside of Pungwe Camp. And I know that a few people are a little bit concerned about him. He's not really moving, he's not really doing much, and his condition doesn't look amazing. But you know, lions, just like Tingana was a perfect example where he actually got quite weak. His condition wasn't great for a while, and he stopped going on territorial patrol. Everyone was really worried about him, and that was when Hukamuri was really in his prime and starting to push in, because Hukamuri realized the territorial male that is Tingana is not pushing back. There's no resistance, so he's going to keep pushing. And for a while, everybody believed Tingana was no more, and this was years ago. But basically, he came back again. Maybe he was ill. People get sick. Maybe, I don't know why he lost condition. Maybe there was something we were not aware of. Maybe he ate something. Maybe there was a snake bite. And he bounced back naturally in true Tingana fashion. And I just wonder if maybe Dark Mane's the same. Maybe he's just not in great condition right now, but he will bounce back. But he seems to just be staying at Pungwe Camp, even in their car park. He's not really moving, which is why we're not seeing him on Juma. So that's my update about Dark Mane, but sadly Blondie and Mohawk, I really don't have any updates, I'm afraid. But I always give updates as I hear them, so hopefully once we start seeing other vehicles, we can get some updates. I'd really love to spend some time with the Nkuhuma system. Okay, that's the western boundary done, on to the southern boundary, and you guys are going over to Rowan.
Still on the dam cam and still watching Egyptian geese. Yeah, so we don't really have an update on Dark Mane. We just heard that he was around Pungwe Camp for a very long time. So he might actually still be there. We'll try ask today. I think Blondie might have been seen around Elephant Plains 2 or 3 days ago. And yeah, that's the only update I have on those. But I'll ask today as well. See if they've been seen maybe around another portion. I can't say we were hearing much lion audio last night from camp either. It was only when we were out on drive that we heard it from the eastern boundary, from that cheetah cut line. But it never really came close. I don't know, maybe someone heard lion on the dam cam. Didn't get an update on that either. I was actually hoping that we'd find a pride at the dam today. Sorry, so you can see the male did eventually arrive. He's there, while the poor mother is now just following chicks around. It's a lot of babysitting, and it's a lot of loops around the dam. Like I said, 7 chicks. Or following on. They could, I think they usually lay 1 to about 20 eggs. Imagine having 20 of those chicks that you need to babysit. And of course, out here, being that size is a bit of a danger. Just fall prey to nearly anything. So it's quite nice to see the size difference between these ones, the chicks here, and the chicks we saw on Chitwa. Definitely about a 4 or 5 month difference. So yeah, Egyptian geese, I mean, their laying dates literally any time of the year. There's a peak between July and October. Otherwise, they could lay them anytime. I'm just trying to zoom in a little bit again. You can actually see how cute these guys are. You can imagine if they sit still how well they'll camouflage into the grass. Okay, we're going to quickly send you over to Lauren, who's found a predator.
If I don't go to them, they come to me. They arrived from the dam cam last night too. Good morning. You're looking so beautiful today. Is that you, Intima? It's Intima. Let's look at her mammary glands. Nothing immediately obvious stood out to me, but of course, I mean, it's not the best view. Hello, darling. It's good to see her. I just wondered if she could be denning because she lost in Tambu. We believe she lost in Tambu. I just want to see where she goes, because sometimes when you turn on the Indian hyenas, they don't run away, but they do a little bit of a gallop and just head off. So I want to try and see where she goes. If she goes left, it's Mendoza, which I believe is now named Monkey Orange, but I'll never get that. If she goes north, it's Zoe's. If she goes east, it's Philemon's Cut Line. It's good to see her. The last time I saw Intima, she was being beaten up by Corky. She was screaming. That really sort of high-pitched sound hyenas make. She's gonna go north. Okay, let's follow a little bit. Lincoln. Mostly the spot pattern. Well, it depends how well you know them, to be honest. Hyenas tend to not stay so perfect for very long. They get quite mangled ears, they get scars. So a lot of the time you can just look at the ear. I mean, Ribbon's got a very funky ear now. It used to be a beautiful butterfly. Now it's a very tattered old butterfly that's close to death. June's got a floppy ear. Heart's got nicks in her ears. And Intima's ears are perfect. So the ears are actually quite a good one. A lot of them have scars, and Intima's got a scar on her right shoulder that's quite characteristic of her. And if you don't know them at all and you're just starting to learn, then really the spot pattern. She's now going north on Zoe, so she's not heading to the den in any way. I don't go off-road, Intima, because I can't follow you. It's impossible to follow hyenas in winter, never mind summer. Okay, try and keep up with her. She crossed over from Hoffman's. That's interesting, because lions were called in on Hoffman's yesterday. I wonder if she was hanging around the lions. I don't want to drive over the dung piles. It's like Super Mario Kart when you're trying to avoid all the things on the road. The shells that make you explode. I love Super Mario Kart. I was always Princess Peach. Oh, it's so good to see her. You can see if a hyena's got full mammary glands. It's quite obvious, and I really didn't see anything. Because she is believed to have lost in Tambu quite a while ago, and I think there's been enough time to mate. Maybe not. hyena pregnancy is a little bit longer than a lion and a leopard. Not by much, but maybe it's not been enough time. Okay, let's keep up. No, she's turned in to go off-road. To the road of nothing, Mendoza. I've had one sighting in 3 years on Mendoza. We always used to call it the road of nothing. But it's actually not. Yeah, many of you are happy she's looking so much better. I didn't actually see her not look good. I just saw her, well, as Corky was deciding to dominate her that day. If you go for Ribbon, then you have to go for Ribbon's daughter. You have to make sure they both understand their place. Oof, we'll never find her in there. And I'm not off-roading. It's wet, it's thick, and it's a hyena. It's not worth it. We are down to one car. I can't risk losing another one. Ah, what a wonderful sighting. I think I am now going to decide where to go to get to the hyena den. We are just driving. I'm going to try and get to the hyena den now. Just been scratching other areas of the reserve. To see what else we can find, but I want to see if the den is active. It's actually perfect morning to get predators mobile. I wish I could drive everywhere at once, but I can't. It's a chilly morning, but I like it. It's nice and fresh. We could do with a little bit more ambient light, but otherwise, it's a perfect morning. Sorry, Dobby, I'm trying to avoid squishing the dung piles, but there are so many. Lots of life lives in those dung balls, lots of life. So you have to avoid driving over them at all times. Some of these hyena tracks can really get you going. Okay, we're going to keep cutting across the reserve and slowly make our way towards the hyena den.
This is definitely the longest time I've ever spent watching Egyptian geese. It's quite amazing to see how well this mother is just posting herself and keeping watch as the chicks move and feed around. And she's not feeding at all. I think the chicks probably spend about 50% of their day just foraging around, mostly grazing. Hardly good question. So she's asking if Egyptian geese adopt abandon chicks as their own. I honestly don't know. I've never heard of it, but I don't think so, because Egyptian geese are very territorial, so they wouldn't adopt other Egyptian geese chicks because they won't actually nest in the same area. And I can't imagine a mother is going to go around and babysit other aquatic, water birds. Basically, she knows what her chicks look like, and her main focus would be to look after them. There's now quite a gap between the mother and the chicks, but I think when they get a little bit too far, she'll either call or go to them. As long as all of them are basically in the same spot, otherwise she would go fetch one that's straying a little bit too far. A very good mom. You see, they're all coming closer to her now. Meet halfway. Path of least resistance. Under the stick, straight to the chicks. The chicks are so tiny, they just fit in. Oh, there's Dad. Also coming to check up on the family. She's a slight bit bigger than the female. Such a cute little family. And see the one on the right trying to jump up to catch a grass seed. Imagine, not the best jumpers in the world. So of course, if there was any sign of a predator here, or any sign of danger, both adults will call the chicks and they'll actually take to water. Luckily there's no crocodile in the water, so that should be fairly safe. And males also started feeding now. David asking how old are these babies? Oh, David, I would just venture a guess here and say maybe 6 weeks, 4 weeks to 6 weeks. So tiny, tiny, tiny. And the coloration is so very unlike the adults. The Aramot babblers have arrived back at the office, so they're just sitting outside and you can actually hear them also foraging. That sound. I can't zoom in far enough to check the color of the bowl, but it's usually grayish and then turns a little bit green like week 5 or 6. So I don't know if any of you have seen the chicks flap their wings at all. Oh, the one is quite far off to the right. Go, Mom, go fetch him. Actually, now they're splitting into two groups. So you can see 3 here on the right. I think the other 4 are there actually behind the mother. Yeah. But I don't think they'll venture too far. You know, being that size, you would actually want to stick closer to the parents, closer to safety. So I'm going to follow the 3 adventurous ones, the naughty children. In my house, I was never the naughty child. My sister was the naughty child, and she led us astray. I remember when I was tiny, I got lost. I don't really know for how long. In my mind, it was about half an hour, and I was super scared. It was in a Pick n Pay, which is a big supermarket here in South Africa. And I remember being lost, and it was my sister's idea. She wanted to go look at something, and me being a year younger, followed her, thinking, oh, what a great idea, let's go look at that. And then I actually had to walk to a person that took me to a reception area and had to call my parents over loudspeaker so they can come fetch me. But I don't think I was lost too long. Just as a kid, you know, whenever you're removed from your parents, I think I was like 4 or 5 years old, especially in a place like this, it's huge. So you get quite scared, and time ticks away very slowly. Okay, so Karen is saying 23rd of December is the first day that they saw the baby geese with their parents. So they would have hatched around that date, because they usually leave the nest within 6 hours. So they're still very, very young. So I don't know, maybe Cara knows. How many chicks were there initially? Was it always 7? Was there more? Okay, so let's take you back to Lauren and see how the bumble is going on her side.
I'm glad to hear there are 7. I could only count 6 yesterday, but it was hard. They were in the long grass and it was raining. But I'm glad to know there are 7, because I was told there should be 7. The doggy's just given the lens a wee wipe. It started raining on us there. Or spitting, shall we say. I love all the words we have for rain. Drizzle, spitting, torrential downpour, mist. What other words do we use for rain? Pitter patter. There are a lot of words that we use to describe the strength of the rain or the volume of the water droplets. Okay, we are on Twin Dams Road, and I really just want to get to the den now. I really hope for it to be active of sorts. Marora Ingwe, I wonder if that is Mr. Maribs. Okay, we are almost there, What do you think, people? We're gonna get it active? I don't know. Did you get that name, Dove?
Joe something.
Yeah, we didn't get that name, I'm afraid, but I think with tracking, it's a skill that you just have to keep on improving, keep on working on. And I actually spoke in great depth about this the other day, but it's also a process. So of course, when you first come here, you'll learn to identify tracks. Quite simple. That is a hyena, that is a leopard, that is a lion, etc., etc. I mean, you can actually track reptiles and birds, but then it's about understanding the entire scene in front of you. So what you should never do, and this is a good tip, is just look at one track. Look at the scene, and that will give you a lot more information. Look at the tracks where they go, and also look at behind. Look at if there is any other evidence of the behavior of the animal, not just the fact that it's a leopard. Is the leopard doing anything? Is it walking? Can you smell popcorn? Has it laid down? Are there two sets? Is it mating? Is it following another one? So always look at the scene. Assess the scene before you sort of make a decision to follow. And then I think a big part of it out here for me is because I've been here a really long time, you start to understand which leopard it could be. Now, yes, you could be wrong. Some leopards have maybe a claw that's missing and you can see it in the track. Maybe they have a limp, you can see it in the track. And you understand their territorial movements. So for example, if we saw a leopard, a female leopard at Buffelshoek Dam, I know that's not going to be Shadulu, unless she was mating and she's moved, but generally speaking, that is not going to be Shadulu. You can write that off completely. It's never going to be Sibuli or Kotrava. Your two likely candidates for who it would be at Buffelshoek Dam are Tlalamba and Tandy. So you can sort of use a process of elimination to figure out who it could be. And then you can start to think where they might be moving. Okay, it's Tlalamba, she might be going to the den. It's Tandy, she might be going here. So you've got to use your knowledge of the animals and the landscape as well. Oh, guys, my heart is broken. I'm getting tired now of coming every day and there's nothing. No. Okay. We will keep bumbling and see what else we can find.
Guys, it doesn't seem like anything else has come down to the water just yet. We had a pied kingfisher a little bit earlier diving down and I focused on the geese. I can't seem to find it now. So what I'm going to do is zoom you out and look at the beautiful clouds in the night. Looks to be a very nice morning to be out there. Hopefully the hyena den is active and Lauren gets to see Ribbon. I was asked quite a few times yesterday and the day before to go past the hyena den. But Lauren's right though, speaking about tracking, you know, it's always a lot easier if you get to know the area, if you know where large trees are, where pan systems are, things like that, which is why often when new rangers start in an area, they are given one of the more senior trackers, some of the guys that's been there for a long time, because they'll be able to learn from them quickly. And that's an amazing relationship if it does work out between a ranger and a tracker. They often become best friends. So of course you need to trust each other out there, specifically when you start tracking leopard and lion. Also when you start with a very, very, very experienced tracker, you know, they are almost going to test you a little bit every now and then. When I say test, that means walk you into prowler lions or leopard that might just charge to see if you're going to run away or not, of course.
My frustration at the hyena den is real. It's real, everyone. So hoping to come back and have lots of den sightings, and it's just not happening. But that's okay, we shall keep on trying. We are going to go to Chitwa for a number of reasons. It's very productive right now. And there are lots of people, and it's a lot easier to cover an area when you can work as a team. Right now, thank you for that update. Yes, it's easier to work as a team, to check an entire area. At least when we get two vehicles back on and I can sort of work the area together, and that will create much, much better coverage. These impalas, young boy and an older boy, they don't look suspicious of the environment at all. Where are the hyenas? Unless the lions that got called in on Hoffman's, I'm guessing it's the Nkohumas. If that's just a guess, are on a kill, and that's maybe where all the hyenas are. And Tima came from that side. I don't think Intima's really been hanging around since the takeover. I could be wrong. I mean, I've obviously missed a large chunk of time, but as far as I know, Intima's not really been coming around since Corky took back over. Okay, Impala, you have a lovely day. We are going to Bumble and see what else is happening. You can see why the boys like Rusty. Mechanically, Rusty is powerful. Alison, I don't know. I'm guessing two. I'm guessing if there are more than one, then you can call it a herd. I don't think there are specific criteria to be called a herd. I think it's just a collective term for the animals. So I'm guessing you could have a herd of two. Or maybe you would just say that's a pair. Maybe five. I don't actually know. I mean, Impala are generally always together. Maybe five meets the criteria to be called a herd. But I'm not sure on that one. I just want to scan in the Mowati. I've had some wonderful sightings in this area on both sides. Okay, we're in the southeast. I am going to head into Chitwa. I want to get I haven't been there in a few days. I want to get an update, see if Kuchava and Cub are around, or anybody else. Hi team! Nice jacket, Penny! Okay, let's get off Gary Main, another access road. Messy but productive. Okay, we're going to head into Chitwa, see what's happening down that side, and you guys are going to head over to Rowan.
Good luck, Lauren. Not too much happening on my side yet either. We had a male bushbuck that was on the dam wall, and then of course decided to go behind some bushes on this side. Actually very beautiful antelope. I remember the first time I went on safari, we saw bushbuck but not too often. Yeah, and then every time you actually get to see them and you look at the coat, the stripes and the blotches, they are magnificent, very, very pretty coat. But of course, when you want to see him, it disappears. There's the pied kingfisher though. Zoom out. See the splash in the water. He's looking for some food. Ah, there we go. Like I said, very, very pretty. Like everything is moving so slowly this morning. And I think it's mostly because of the wind. Although, when I look outside, it doesn't really look too windy. But this guy's just been creeping around, not moving fast at all, and you can see both ears erect, facing in all directions, just looking for any sign of danger before he goes off and browses a little bit more. From the size of the horns, doesn't look to be a very old male, and they are usually solitary. So I wish my ears could move like that. I love it when they just hear something in the grass and focuses literally all their attention on there. I saw that once with we were watching a giraffe, strangely enough, and the giraffe was just doing its thing, just walking in one direction, and suddenly it stopped and pretty much hopped away. You can imagine a giraffe hopping, and just stared intently into the grass. So I initially thought snake. It must have heard something in the grass right in front of it, and it turned out to be a young female leopard. Of course, we drove in just to investigate, and then boom, next thing the leopard popped up, ran away from us. I think it was actually lying there trying to hide away from us. And yeah, but what a cool way to find a leopard. Of course, that is Lauren's plan for this morning. I hope she does come right. Hashem, he doesn't look too comfortable. Not really see too many stripes on him just yet. Petro's saying he looks so alert, and he is, rightfully so. Out there, danger could be around any corner. It's not really like the comfort of your own home. Actually, you need to sleep in areas where lions, leopards, hyenas, cheetah, all of them patrol, wild dogs. Luckily for bushbuck, they are also rather good swimmers, and you'd probably dive in the dam if you had to see a leopard or lion. You can see the sunlight coming out a little bit now. Oh, he's been standing in one spot for a rather long time now. I think a spider web just came across the damn cam now. Maybe just trying to kite its web to another tree.
We've made it to Chitwa Dam. It's beautiful. Chitwa Dam is just wakening up. The sun is starting to burst through, which is glorious, so we are just going to sit here for a moment or two and appreciate the beauty around the dam.
That stone is broken. No, negative. I mean, with the Rinkani is broken. Oh, he has your one on gallows, yeah? Okay, I'll come and join you. No, I did not carve that far. With your club of clove, you're about to find Ngala for you. The lights are tempted. Yeah, okay, Chef. We are in this journey now. Can you see the example where you are? Yeah, Paul. Tola cage. Hey, Chef. Tola cage, you're moving.
Isn't that so lovely? Starting to get a little bit warmer too. We're just sitting at Chitwa Dam. It's remarkably quiet around here. Not quiet in a sense of noise. There's lots of noise. I mean quiet in a sense of activity. Even the hippo activity is rather quiet. They are there though, just under the dead tree. I think we saw little Rolo the other day, but to be honest, it's very tricky now, especially when you've been away for a while and you come back and there are new calves and different movements amongst the herd. We were talking about herd earlier, and technically, hippos are herds. They're collected now as a herd, but naturally people get very creative and bloats and pods. But I think pod would be more accurate, or herd. There is a male lion calling, we can hear it, and he's just been found, but I think it's on Little Gary, I'm afraid. Sorry, I didn't get that question, I'm afraid. Z? No, I don't think so. You are just seeing what we see on WildEarth. You've got to remember is the Sabi Sands is very large. You have lots of different properties that we sadly don't traverse on. At one point in time, our traverse was very large and very productive, but we only traverse Djuma and Chitwa now. But we have Torchwood, Bufalsuk, Nkoro, Cheetah Plains, Sumbambili, Arathusa, Hoffman's, Little Gowrie, Londolozi, Malamala, it's all part of the Sabi Sands, so I don't think that all the hippos in the Sabi Sands are here, I'm afraid. This is just the largest collection of hippos that we see on our traverse at WildEarth. I'm not going to stay at the dam too long. I know driving around may be a little bit boring, but if you don't drive and check areas, you're never going to know what's going on. So I thought we'll do a little loop around Chitwa. If we don't get lucky, then we'll start looping the east to see if we can pick up on any signs of Tlalamba. It's easy when you know where the sightings are, but if you don't, you've got to put a lot of hard work in. And generally speaking, hard work pays off out here. Normally, at some point, if you're persistent enough, you will get lucky. I was the grey heron that just bombed that shot. I love seeing birds in flight. Especially bigger birds, and they just take to the skies. It's just so wonderful. I'll try and get some updates on Kuchava as well. I just know yesterday she was on the boundary line heading north. The Egyptian geese are never quiet anywhere, are they? Always making a nice racket. I think we'll slowly just drive really slowly to the other side of the dam. I like this side, the southern side. I also find it very productive. Okay, we are just going to check this other little corner. There's often things happening, and now over to Rowan.
Not too much just yet. I've just zoomed out. I seem to have pushed the wrong button and now I'm just focused on the road. I'm just trying to get back up. Yeah, it doesn't seem that watering holes would be too busy today. It's again probably because of the weather, because there's so much rain that came down yesterday that nothing really needs to get to the dam at all. I actually have no idea what I did here. But now my entire screen is just the bottom part of the road. I was really hoping that pride or the lions we heard calling last night would be making their way towards the dam. It's quite a far walk and there's quite a few other pan systems in the way there, but I don't, yeah, maybe they are still on Torchwood. This afternoon when we go out, we'll probably go check the boundaries. Hopefully Wendy gets fixed today as well. And then there can be 2 vehicles driving around on Juma. It's quite tough when it's only 1 vehicle checking an entire property. You tend to see more when there's more vehicles, of course. Remember, even on Ngala, sometimes we were out with just 1 vehicle and it made it really tough. Especially initially when you started with WildEarth. Leah, apparently Darkman's quite young. I think he's between 8 and 9, which puts him, in actually an ideal age range. He should be at his strongest now, so I think he's just weaker because of his injury. As you can imagine, it does slow him down a little bit, having a massive limp. But I spoke about it last night, saying he's still, he even tried to take down a young elephant. So it's not really done much for his confidence. It's just, any lion with a limp, or any animal really, would have a disadvantage with a bad injury like that. I've yet to see Darkman. Remember, I've not seen him yet. So I don't really know how bad his limp is. Remember the Birmingham young male? He had a bad limp for quite a few months, and now I seem to have recovered from that nearly fully. I mean, if you watch him walk, he's still a little bit weak on the left backside, but an enormous lion. So it'd be quite nice to meet Darkman. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's one of the Voca males. And we used to see the Voca males. They're up in the north. So not the Voca males, but the Voca pride. So remember, that's the first lioness I saw with a blind eye. Makes it quite interesting for photography. So I would have seen Darkbane when he was a lot younger. Remember, and Blondie. Actually, I should scroll back to old photos and watch, because I've got a beautiful photo of a gorgeous young male lion from, I think, 6-7 years ago. Ian, so if you read up about it, a human being should be able to hear a lion roaring from 7 kilometers. Now, that's ideal weather conditions. So cooler temperatures, sound travels further in cool air. And then I think if the wind blows in our direction, from where the line is roaring, it might even travel further. So last night when we were stopped on the boundary, I would imagine that that line was calling from about 2.5 to 3 kilometers away. I used to have a tracker that could place a line roar every single time within 15 meters. It was just unbelievable. But then also, I mean, he spent 24 years on one property, so he literally knew that place like the back of his hand. And also he paid a lot of attention to the movement of animals. So what they would do, I mean, a lion's not going to start roaring when it's sitting in a thicket, because it wants the sound to travel further. I mean, the more lions hear him roaring, the more know about his presence in the area. So they'll go to clearings. And he just knew exactly where every single clearing was. Doesn't matter, regardless of the size of the piece of land between the roads. So we call it a block. So regardless of the size of the block, you would just know, okay, so this line sounds like it's coming from 270 degrees that way, and there should be a clearing there. And I kid you not, every single time he was right. Or if we were a little bit further away, we'd head in that direction, and we would at least find tracks of the lines, and then we found them anyway. I remember initially starting with WildEarth, and there was only one vehicle driving around on Ngala, and that made it a little bit tough. So often in the morning, first thing you do is just drive out and wait, just listen, see if you can hear anything. Then we used to try do what the trackers do best and place it, and it took a bit of time, you know, but what a wonderful time to drive around. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just keep quiet for a little bit, so just enjoy the sounds around the dam camp.
managed to come across a raptor that I've actually not seen in quite a while. I do have an African hawk eagle here. You can immediately tell from that white chest with those really obvious heavy streaking. Looks like someone's just taken a paintbrush and streaked the chest. From a distance, you could be forgiven with my eyesight. At least you could be forgiven to think it was a marshal, just due to the coloration. But once you actually look closer, you can see that it's an African hawk eagle. The brown coloration of a marshal streaks much further down the chest than this. It sort of reaches their breastbone, if you like. But you could be forgiven to think it was a juvenile marshal. It's so nice to see, though. I haven't seen an African hawk eagle in quite a while. Someone said the other day this was your favourite raptor. I'm really sorry. I can't remember who it was. But it was someone's favourite. So this is for you. They're fairly common here. It's not that they're uncommon. It's just that we don't tend to see them. We don't really have lots of them around here. We have a pair that we used to see all the time on Impala Plains around that area, a monogamous pair, and then we had a pair that we always used to see around Central, the eastern side of Central. I just love raptors, full stop. And these guys are the winter breeders. So a lot of the other birds are breeding now. It's breeding season. But not these guys. Jake, you're asking... Oh, having a little stretch there. You're asking about the chicks. And generally speaking, the incubation period is quite long. The incubation period itself is around, on average, 42 days. So that's what, a month and a half? That's quite a long incubation period. And you're asking how long they stay in the nest for. I don't know. I've never followed an African hawk eagle nest, but I will refer to my bird app. Let's see what it says. It says post-fledging is anywhere after 4 weeks. The chick's left alone after 4 weeks when both adults go to hunt. But it doesn't say how long is actually left in the nest for. So I don't actually know, I'm afraid. But they don't breed every year. The sort of average is 2 to 3 years. It's not an annual breeding. That's why we don't always see them getting ready to breed in the winter every single year here. We have followed some nests of the 2 pairs that I mentioned, but it's not an annual breeding season. I'd love to see little chicks. I haven't actually seen chicks of an African hawk eagle, and we can see the nests. It would be so lovely if we could follow them just like we followed Batilda. Okay, Davi, let's keep bumbling. I want to start checking the east. The sun is coming out. Animals are probably going to start drying off because it was a bit of a wet morning. Not terribly wet. But I would really like to see what is happening on the reserve. I'd love to see an aerial map every morning, a live one, and just see where things are moving. Animal movements really fascinates me, from migrations to just daily movement patterns. I find it really, really interesting. And the shift that I've seen over 3 years, and I think that's a wonderful thing about being here longer, because you can compare. I mentioned this yesterday, I think, on DamCam, where Darby and I were actually talking about it the other day. Around Gowrie Dam, that area that sort of Rowan's shown you right now, used to be very productive with leopards, and it was specific leopards, and that's because it was very much the dominant male at the time, Tingana, his core area. Then you had his son, who was not territorial, just like Mareebs, I guess, who spends most of their time centralized in one area, the only area that they know before they start exploring. Mareebs is also behaving very like that. And then we had Tandy, it was very much her territory. She was a dominant female. And then, of course, Kalamba. She was not territorial at that point in time. And that was just a natal area that she knew. And there was lots of activity. But I must say now that Tingana's nomadic and we don't know his whereabouts. Some people think he has passed, some people don't. I don't know. Tandy's shifted. Tandy's gone completely east to make space for Tlalamba. Then you have Tlalamba, that's very much her territory now, although we don't often see her because her territory is big and she's currently denning. And then Hosan dispersed.
Okay, sorry about that. Seems Rusty's feed has been lost. So I'm sure it's just a tiny signal area once again, and he'll be up and running soon. But now you get to zoom around the dam cam with me. And there, some waterbuck. Most likely the same two females that were here yesterday. I've yet to see the male on the dam cam, of which I'm sure there is one. Highly territorial males, whereas the females just tend to move around from one territory to another, visiting most likely their favorite watering holes and best feeding grounds. As you can see, they are grazing at the moment, so eating grass. And one other thing you'll notice is the constant tail wagging, especially on the one on the left. A lot happier than the one on the right. I'm joking, it's not a dog. It's just trying to ward off flies. It's not showing happiness with its tail. A little bit less alert than the bushbuck was, I have to be honest. Both of them with their heads down and feeding, now moving. It's quite nice watching the reflection of the white ring on the bum in the water. It looks very still out there. And just look at the water. There's no real ripples of wind or anything. Quite a fluffy neck. Strong animals also. And these two, they probably weigh in the region of about 180 kilograms. Flynn asking about the white markings on the bushbuck. So Flynn, your two colors that stick out most in the bush would be black and white. And so on majority of animals, you'll notice either the tip of the tail or the ears, or in the case of a bushbuck, the ring around the bum would be either black or white. And these are follow me signs, which means that if they run away from something, or if they have very small youngsters with them, the youngsters can actually focus on the white and would be able to follow the adults. Interesting though, what kudu do is they lift up their tails and it exposes a very white spot, and even though it is a follow me sign, it becomes a follow me sign to predators as well. And the theory behind it is when they run, they'll lift their tail, run into dense vegetation and then drop their tail. And so when the predator focuses mostly on the white, when the white disappears, they're supposed to lose the kudu, because there's no more target to follow. Whereas on the bum of a waterbuck, there's not too much they can do to conceal that target. Poor things. You often hear that predators don't really like bushbuck because the meat tastes rank, but that is not the case. Because you often see lions feeding on bushbuck. We used to find it all the time. But they are clever and they are very good swimmers, often readily taking to water whenever they feel threatened. It's cute how the tail just waves and waves and waves. But it does look like the one on the left, this one. The tail's a lot busier. Now a little bit more aware. So Egyptian goose on one side and then waterbuck on the other side. Let me just quickly zoom around, see if we're not missing anything on this side. Nope. All clear. See, the one female has now made her way all the way up. The other female is still feeding here at the bottom. I love the males though. Massive, massive, very long horns. Don't want to get into a fight with one of those either. Very sharp and strong horns. So the males usually, they take over territory and they'll show signs of territorial behavior here at around 5 years old. But it's only when they become quite a bit older, maybe around 8 or 9, or maybe 7, 8 or 9, that they'll actually secure a territory. But it's tough for them. Being a male, he'll be kicked out at a young age already, whereas a female can just stay in her herd. I guess it's like that with majority of animals. Fairly sure the one here at the bottom, well, it depends where the one on top goes, but it looks like she's going to the other side of the dam wall. So the one on our left will most likely end up joining that one. It's a lot safer to stick together like that. Definitely spend quite a bit of time looking around before they just move into an area, which is, I guess, vital for their survival. Again, rather be safe than sorry.
We are back on Djuma, feels right, and now I'm going to check the east for Miss Tlalamba. Now, at 7 o'clock South African time, there will be a drop in power, and it's just because of load shedding, this wonderful thing that we experience here in South Africa. And it's the switch between the generator, which we're running off of right now, onto the main power. So when that switch happens, we lose power. So our feeds will go down, but they'll pop back up again. I think it only takes a minute or two. I hope it only takes a minute or two. And we'll be back with you, so please do not worry. Load shedding. It's wonderful. I also had no idea what that was until I came here. But it happens very often. Okay, I want to check this area really nicely. Tiani, we also get the Ayers hawk eagle, but I've never seen that here. The only one in this area, at least of the Sabi Sands, I only see the African hawk eagle. But you do also get the Ayers hawk eagle, which looks very, very similar, actually. Unfortunately, I can't show you my bird app, and I don't have my book with me. All the bird books are in Joburg. It's not possible to keep traveling back and forth between stints with a lot of books. So I left that one in Joburg, but we do also get the Ayers hawk eagle. Raptors, when I first came here, I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to learn all of these raptors? An insect calling on me, but slowly but surely they've become my favorite. I absolutely love raptors. I love seeing them in the sky. I love trying to identify them. We follow a lot of raptors, battaliers, the spotted eagle owls, the Wahlberg's pairs. We know them individually, and I think that's very impressive when you can actually identify birds individually. Hello, you guys. Are you just waking up? Where have you come from? Where's your mound? I love mongoose. And I think out of all of them, the dwarfies are probably the most entertaining. I don't want to get any closer because they'll just run away. Good morning. Now they look so cute to us, to the human eye. They're so adorable. Oh, how cute, how cute. But actually, they're quite ferocious as predators themselves. I mean, these guys will take down millipedes. Well, millipedes are easy. Centipedes, sorry. Scorpions. Snakes. Okay, maybe not huge snakes like a rock python, but they'll take down snakes. So although to us they're very cute, and they are cute, they are actually very fierce. Also very curious. You said it surprises you that they're predators. Yes, of course, they're definitely not herbivores, that's for sure. And they do not eat grass. They snack on other insects and small things and snakes and geckos, lizards. And if you eat other animals, you're a predator. I'm not sure when this internet drop is going to happen, anybody. I thought it might have happened by now, but we are past the 7 o'clock mark. I don't see a termite mound, but they must have a mound somewhere here. They may also be small. Termite mounds don't have to be big. They start off small naturally. And dwarf mongoose, can utilize them even if they're small, as long as they run deep and there's enough room for the whole group to squeeze in. But yes, they are absolutely predators. A predator is anything that hunts, kills, and eats another animal. So predators come in all shapes and sizes. A lot of insects are predators. A lot of all reptiles. I think the word predator has just been misused because a lot of people only think of the big fierce mammals. But a lot of animals are predators out here who prey upon other species. Firefinch, no, they're actually not all gregarious. If you think of the white-tailed mongoose, the nocturnal species, they are not. We don't see them too often. Naturally, we only see them at night time. But they are not. They're solitary. Unless you see a mother with offspring, of course, but that's something different. They are not gregarious, so not all species are. Slender, also not. Yellow, I believe, are also not. I just wanted to check this area for tracks. Nothing that I can see. The ground is very wet. Nothing so far. But still, this is a good area to check. This is the exact road we found Tlalamba on the other day. And when cubs are den bound, what that means is the mum has to utilize that area. Tlalamba before would be difficult to track. Her territory was huge. It was spanning into Bubblesook and Torchwood. But now she's a little bit more restricted as she's got 2 little bundles of joy to look after. So we're going to keep scratching around for her. We're just going to keep bumbling until we get to the next junction, and I will stop, listen, give you beautiful views. I'll scan the ground, but I just want to get there first. See if we can hear any vocalizations, alarm calls, see any signs of movement. Okay, I'm gonna turn off here.
Stand by.
And let's see if we can listen. Isn't it so nice to just stop and listen and appreciate what's around you?
Okay, dam cam is still quiet. I think the water bugs seem to have left. Now I've slowed down the rotation of the camera. A little bit later I'm going to speed it up all the way and see how quickly we can spin. Yeah, water bug is gone. Nothing coming down to the water. I now have a crested barbet sitting outside. Also, quite a vocal bird. Interestingly though, there's a goose that just landed. So birds, when they call, they've got this little apparatus called a syrinx, and it's like a cartilaginous device just at the base of the windpipes or just above the lungs. So a syrinx receives like a bronchial tube from each lung. Now the crested barbet, they can call using one tube and then breathe using the other tube. That's why they have the ability to call for such a long time. I mean, sometimes they go up to 40, 50 seconds just with that incessant brrr. Very, very pretty bird. But it's nearly the same thing with the Egyptian geese, because they are everywhere, often overlooked in the bush, because you see them in all the major cities around here. I just had a glimpse of Marcel as well. I wonder what his plan is. I think they might be going back to Wendy, see if they can sort her out, get her ready for afternoon game drive, so that both of us can go out and have a look around. Pity that things are quiet on Chitwa. Hopefully Lauren can find something on Juma. But yeah, still nothing on dam cam. Brandslang, you're asking, why do raptors bob their heads left and right when scanning? I think probably just to enable a better view, make sure they did see movement, if they did see something. You know, when let's take a human as an example, or even a monkey. When you think you see something, how you move your head in a specific direction to see if you did actually see it. I can imagine it might be the same thing with them. Of course, most predatory birds have binocular vision, which means they can see far, both eyes located forwards. Unlike peripheral vision, like most antelope. Very, very quiet morning out there. At least the sun is starting to come out now. Still a bit of cloud cover. Zoom out. It's starting to be a really pretty day. Again, quite a nice day for a run. It's not going to be too hot. We looked at a system on Odie's phone. Yes, it seems that there is quite a bit of rain coming our way. They're hitting us by Tuesday or Wednesday, so just keep an eye on that. Hopefully Lauren doesn't get caught in rain like we did yesterday. Oh, it gets very dark. Papa, I haven't seen any fish jumping in the water yet. There would be fish in this dam, fairly certain of that. But I think all the little rings you can see might be insects, maybe dragonflies going down. Let me zoom in all the way. But no, so far I've not seen one fish actually jumping. Actually look like little raindrops. Actually, that might just be raindrops. We're gonna have to ask Lauren if she's receiving rain. There's also quite a number of terrapins in the dam here. See if we can maybe see a head of one sticking out. Okay, so while I try to find a terrapin, we're going to send you back to Lauren, who's bumbling around.
We are bumbling around, Quarry Pan, not going in, but just around. I just wonder if Lalamba might move them at some point. She will move them at some point, but to me they look fairly mobile, these little cubs. And some of the drainage lines might be quite waterlogged now, so she may move them to somewhere just a bit drier. One day we'll get lucky. We need a team. We need a team out working all the areas. But this road is a long road, but it eventually takes you to Buffelshoek Dam. And we're not going to go to the Dam of Nothing this morning. We're going to cut back in and do a big giant loop. But do send in your questions. It's been a quiet morning. Luckily the sun has come out. I have to say I'm very, very happy about the sun coming out. That means there's a lot more light for us to work with, and it means the insects are going to start moving around and things will just start to flourish. And I got my flower mantis yesterday. I'm over the moon. Now we're going to start looking for flower crab spiders. And for those of you that maybe don't like spiders, don't worry. This is a particularly cute spider that really doesn't look spiderish. The golden orbs should be coming out soon too. They should be out. There's nothing quite like walking through the bush and then you realise inches away from your face is the most ginormous spider you've ever seen in your life. That's always a joy. Avi, there's an acria there, but I'm not entirely sure. Oh, there you go, you did it. Well done. Did you get that name?
Simone.
Oh, that is absolutely not what I heard. Okay, Simone, you are asking, has it ever rained so much? Yes, it has. If it's far too heavy, we call it all the time, actually. For many reasons, we do have rain roofs, but rain doesn't just fall vertically. If it's coming in from the sides, the presenter gets, or the front, the presenter gets absolutely soaked. And we've got a lot of technology on board we can't afford to lose right now. And also the roads. You've got to protect the integrity of the soil. You've got to protect the land. And sometimes if the water levels are just too high, dams are overflowing, roads are waterlogged, it's really not safe to drive on for the vehicle. You get stuck, but also for the land. You don't want to destroy anything. So yes, many times I've had to call drives when it's too wet. Last year in particular. Was it last year, Davy, or the year before? I think it was maybe the year before when every dam was just overflowing. We couldn't even get out of camp. We called off the drive for 2 days. And then when we eventually got out of camp, we realized that at the DRC sign, which is the sort of entrance to where we live, Tingana had made a kill. And Klalamba had made a kill. Tingana stole it. And it was right outside our camp. We couldn't walk anywhere. We definitely couldn't go running. And we'd missed all of that. So yes, absolutely, if it rains too heavy. It's also miserable. Now I know acreas are not really called acreas anymore, but I still call them that. And you can see the sun is out, which means the insects are starting to move, but it's only just popped out and it's not really that warm, which means that the insects are not fully solar powered yet. And that's why this one's not fluttering around too much. Once it reaches a really hot time of day, they're going to be so full of energy that they're going to be buzzing everywhere, fluttering everywhere, and it's really hard to actually get a good visual of a butterfly that's not moving around. And you can see this one's in perfect condition. Once they start to reach the end of their life cycle, which is very short, some butterflies only live for a few weeks. In the adult phase. Some dragonflies only live for a few weeks in the adult phase, or in the final phase. And once they're starting to reach the end of their life cycle, which is very species dependent, you will see that they become very tattered. The scales start to drop off their wings, and you can see it looks very serrated, and they just look like they've been through the mill. And they have, and that's them at the end of their life cycle. And eventually they can no longer fly properly. Their body starts to fall apart, and most likely something will eat them. But this one's in good condition. We should start a butterfly list, actually. I started one, but then I left and then I came back, but we should actually have a nice butterfly list going between all of us. And butterflies are really incredible in all stages. There's actually a specific butterfly, I'll try and get the name for you, where the larvae actually impersonates red ants. And they do it so well and so faithfully, I guess, that the worker ants of the actual ants worship the larvae in the caterpillar phase, the caterpillar. They worship them because they think it is their species, and they treat the caterpillars as if it is their queen. And it's not their queen, it's a caterpillar. And they end up caring for the caterpillar, and they actually do this at the expense of their own lives. And it's an amazing thing in the animal kingdom. And when you look at it, you think, what on earth is actually happening there? And the caterpillars, once they hatch and they're actually on the forest floor, they start to secrete ant-like chemicals. So what they're doing is duping the worker ants into tricking them basically into thinking that they are the queen. And then of course, with an ant's social structure, they're going to start treating the queen like royalty, but it's actually not their queen. It's a caterpillar, but they don't know that because they're highly chemical animals, and they're using their sense of, their chemoreception, their sense of smell, if you like, alone. Isn't that amazing that they do that? And I think I've got it written down. It's a Latin name. The butterfly is Maculina rebelli. If you Google that, you'll be able to see it. Worker ants that treat the caterpillars like their queen. Incredible. So we're going to keep bumbling and see what else we can find.
Okay, so still rather quiet on the dam cam. I was hoping that by now an elephant would move down. It looks like the geese have left, the waterbuck, the bushbuck left. We don't have any impalas in the clearing just yet of quarantine. Also no predatory birds sitting in the dead trees. Just a quiet morning out there. The wind has started to pick up. There's a constant breeze. You can see blowing through the grass now. So I'm just trying to scan everywhere for a bit of movement other than the grass moving, and so far nothing yet. It's quite interesting that you have a little pan system on the left of the screen there, right next to a watering hole. Okay, so still nothing coming down to the water. So might as well just update you about what's happening on Ngala. It seems the Birmingham Pride has split up again. So you have little pockets of Pride members everywhere, some in the south, some in the east, and a watering hole called Clara Dam. Not sure where the Ross males are, they might be in the west. So it could be that the Berry males were on the property again and caused a bit of havoc. But I'm sure fairly soon they'll join up again. It is actually now time for again, me saying it is time doesn't mean they are going to do it, because the Birmingham young male should have left ages before he actually left the Pride. If you remember, he was just following them around everywhere and often still eating off the same carcass that the Ross males are eating from. And then one day the Ross males just decided, okay, today we're going to be grumpy, have a fight with him, then he splits off again. So yeah, I'm quite excited to see what this year holds in store for them, because it'll be interesting to see where the white male and his brother goes. So notice I'm mostly talking about those two, because it seems the younger male of the three, that's only 2 months younger than they are, he's often still seen with the Pride and his sister, rather than walking around with the white man and his brother. But a 2-month gap isn't really anything significant, and technically he should also split off from the pride with them. Quite a strong wind developing out there now. In other news, Mandleve, the blue-eyed male with basically nearly an entire ear missing, he's been hanging around a tented camp, which is good. We want a territorial leopard around that area, and he's mated with the Nyala female, so hopefully she would be pregnant again soon. It would be very cool if she gave birth to some blue-eyed youngsters as well. Good genes in that boy. Very, very big leopard. He has mated with the Devonshire female, so she's pregnant now. So there should be leopard cubs on Ngala fairly soon. In the next 3 months or so. And by then we are heading into the end of our summer. But again, for predators it doesn't really matter because they are predators. So for them there should be enough impalas around, enough wildebeest, enough zebras. Any which way. I'm amazed that white dot female, that lead lioness of the Birmingham Pride, that she's not pregnant again. I mean, she was seen mating with an Mberi male, and then she was seen mating with a Ross male. But she might have just been trying to trick them. It's an incredible lioness. Following her story has been absolutely divine. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out and keep watching the water. Go a little bit up. Not lose too much light if we don't go too far up. 5-inch, so I think the comfortability of a tree would be preferential to a leopard, especially if they're just climbing to sleep off the ground. So it just depends on the situation. I mean, if a leopard has a carcass and is close to a tree and could either see or smell or hear a hyena, it's not really going to have time to say, okay, let's go to the nice marula over on the right rather than the terrible bush willow on my left that's only 2 meters away. So if they want to hoist a carcass very quickly, they don't really have the time to go up the tree they prefer to go. They'll just go to the closest thing, just to save the carcass. But saying that, leopards do have favorite trees that maybe as youngsters the mother hoisted carcasses there for them a lot, or it's just they felt safe, or they've never lost a carcass from a certain tree. I once followed a leopard that dragged an impala for 150 meters, and she went past beautiful trees, went underneath incredible marulas, beautiful jackalberries, and she took it to one specific Inyala tree and hoisted it up there. And I actually chatted to my tracker Richard about it, and he was saying that as a youngster the mom used to always put carcasses up that same tree, so I think she just got used to it and wanted to do the same thing because she felt safe there as a baby. Shame Odie just bought me a cup of coffee. Happy place. So yeah, it is an interesting thing. Saying that, I've also seen a leopard take a carcass up a terrible tree. But what happened in that regard was quite interesting. We were stopped on a dam wall having sundowners, and I think I just poured the last gin and tonic, and we heard this commotion, and it was wild dogs killing a waterback. So of course, leave the gin and tonics or take them with if you're not going to spill, because when you hear that, you kind of have to increase your speed to get there as quickly as possible. So anyway, 2 people took their gin and tonics and the rest of them left them, the other 4, and we raced off the dam wall and we found the wild dogs tearing apart a waterbuck. And next moment, the one dog just gave a bark, and all of them just went in every single different direction to try to get away from what it was alarming for. And next moment, back then he wasn't too old, known as the Tamboti male, came charging in. I think it was about 4 years old then. Charged in, stole the waterbuck, and took it up the worst, most uncomfortable tree I've ever seen a leopard in. Let me try to find you an example while we're on dam cam. It was more like, it was a russet bush willow. Oh, that's too big. A russet bush willow had a bit of foliage at the top, but almost like that. And I remember him standing in the tree, snarling down with the waterbuck carcass in his mouth, but also trying to balance, so moving backwards and forwards, just trying to balance the weight of himself and the waterbuck. And so that was actually sort of the beginning stages of seeing Tamboti Tom. And so he kept the waterbuck carcass. The wild dogs eventually just moved off, having lost the carcass, and he dragged it to underneath a better tree, didn't hoist it again. So he just took it to underneath a leadwood and probably spent about 3 days in that area. But initially we could not get closer than 70 meters to him. So every single time we tried to get a little bit closer, he would just veer off and go into a little riverbed or drainage system behind him, and you just could not see him. A little bit similar to the sighting we had of Langa the other day. You could possibly just see a spot, but you could never get close to him. And then as years passed, he became quite comfortable and used to vehicles. It's a process called habituation. And yeah, it used to give us beautiful sightings. It was a tough leopard to track, though. You would track and walk him, and if he saw you, good luck finding him on a vehicle. But if you spotted him from the vehicle, he wouldn't try to run away, which is a bit of, it's different to how Mandleva is, because Mandleva, if you see him during the day now, he just runs away every single time. However, if you find him in the late afternoon, he's perfectly fine. But that habituation process is very, very important. Trying to get the leopards to relax a little bit with vehicles. So often you have leopards coming from other reserves where there aren't too many vehicles and they're just not so used to it. So you need to spend time with them and just patience and see if they could relax, get used to your voices and the sound of the vehicle.
We're just stopping at a pan. It's actually filled up a fair bit, this pan. Sometimes if you just stop long enough, you can see insects fluttering around, sometimes frogs. But the sounds around any form of water, no matter how big the pan is always wonderful. Life happens around water. Water is life. So we're just going to sit and listen for a while. part, and the sound's just incredible. We're just admiring this little pan here, stopping to listen. I listen more now than ever. I think as you grow as a guide out here, you learn that you actually need to listen. We have very noisy engines. And noisy cameramen who never shut up, actually. Can't stop talking. It's hard to stop. I mean, sometimes if it's obviously a loud lion, then you can hear it. But otherwise, it's always worth stopping. And this is in Yala South. And Tandy's den with Marib's, Tlalamba's den with this pair was just in here. It's a road that they both like. It's a road that I've had incredible sightings with them both on. It's very, very much Tlalamba's core area, so it's worth just driving this road. They are creatures of habits, and although their territories do shift absolutely over time, everything shifts over time, they will still take predictable routes. You find the same leopards on the same roads time and time again, and that is because they are territorial beings.
I'm getting mobile after coffee.
Julie, you're asking, does Tlalamba still have 2 cubs? Was that right? Sorry, the game drive video just went off there and I automatically started listening to that.
Where exactly you left this Cara?
Yes, she does. We had her the other day. Yes, still 2 cubs. Just a handful of days ago now, I found her on Drakensberg, and she was taking the cub, or she was actually leading the cubs away from a kill. So they're very mobile now. They're not necessarily going to be using the same den size. She's just going to be leaving them in different places. That's why I'm not bundabashing into the den size, because I don't necessarily think that's how it's working now. But yes, there are 2 very bouncy cubs. Very bouncy. They're so cute. They don't just walk, they bounce. They're ecstatic to be out with mom. Very stimulated by everything that's going on around them. The smells, the feel of the vegetation, seeing new areas is very stimulating for an organism like a leopard. And they bounce, 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 bounce. It was very cute. And we saw one up a tree. We didn't catch it live, I'm afraid, but one of the cubs climbed a tree. Which is why I think Tlalamba will still be using the same area, but I don't necessarily think she's going to be keeping them at one den site now. And if she's using anywhere in the Mowati here, we're not going to be able to go that way anymore. It's such a shame. As for Purple Eye's den was and Tandy's den with Marib's. But one of the sort of dips has collapsed and it's just not drivable. I used to love it. I used to love going on Central, then cutting into the Mowati and going all the way down. You could literally go from Central all the way down to Gowrie Main. I had a lot of sighting there. There's honey badger on foot. Black mamba. There's a black mamba that's very territorial on one of the S-bends. All the leopards. Chris, I like to think so. I like to think I know all the leopards on the areas that we traverse. Londolozi, Malamala, that side, no. But our traverse and the surrounds, I like to think I know them all. Doesn't mean I've met them all. But we study the leopard dynamics very hard here. But in seeing that there is always movement of other leopards. Was it not you, Javi, and I that got that random male one time, never to be seen again? Yes, there's always movement. And believe it or not, there was a wonderful camera trap study done by Panthera, a girl named Lucy. It was for her PhD, a friend of mine. And Ali, our Ali, was the one that was assisting, sort of going through the data and collecting the data and getting rid of the images we don't need and categorizing everything. That was actually a really wonderful time because we got a lot of information from that. And what surprised everybody was the number of wildcats. Every night, tons of them. And yet we never see them on drive. I think we've seen them a handful of times. And also the unidentified leopards. They will always move. Maybe young males that are exploring. That was surprising. But yes, I'd like to think I do know most of the leopards in this area and the surrounds. But out with our traverse, not really, I'm afraid. I'm trying very hard to check the roads that I know she traverses. I don't know where she is right now. The weather's played a bit of a part. But we'll get there. One day we'll get her. I just want to spend as much time with her as I can, really. And Dobby. And Rowan wants to meet her. We all want to see her. But she also needs to go out and hunt, and she also needs to go on territorial patrol. She needs to maintain her territory, especially because she's got cubs. So it doesn't mean she's always going to be sitting with her two little babas. But still, I'm going to keep searching, and you guys are going to go over to Rowan.
Okay, so I hope the Bumble is going better than Damcam because it is super, super, super quiet. Don't know which area she's in, but if she is looking for Tlalamba on that area, should pretty much be in sort of that direction there where Lauren is driving. So I was talking about leopard habituation, and honestly, some of my favorite times in the bush have just been doing exactly that. So Richard and I used to go out when we didn't have guests, when other people were on game drive or even in between game drive. And so this is how we habituated Chitsalala female and her two youngsters is went out, he went tracking, and once we found her den site, or where she moved the two youngsters, we would literally just park the vehicle. We didn't even really talk that much to each other, but the radio would be on channel 2, which was the maintenance channel, and every now and then just start the vehicle, let it purr for a little while. It's just all of that they need to get used to. And luckily the maintenance channel was very, very, very active. Every 2 minutes you would hear Paulos come in, or Goodman, do you copy? So they just got used to voices. Which brings me to another thing that we've noticed. I'm pretty sure the animals out here would know individuals. I'm fairly certain that the ribbon knows Lauren's voice very, very well by now. Actually, every animal out here would know Lauren's voice very well by now, and know their scent and all of that, which is what actually probably helped us in tracking these animals, that they grow quite used to a certain individual walking behind them. No, don't push the boundaries. If they have a carcass or they have very small cubs hidden away somewhere, a mother would not hesitate to attack to try warn you off of it. But there was a leopard called the Nsusu female that used to be fairly relaxed with absolutely everyone. You know, every now and then just give a tiny little mark charge, but then There's one ranger on Ngala, and every single time he arrived to a sighting of an Nsusi female, she would just charge. She could just be sleeping underneath a tree, and every time she heard his voice, just charge straight at him. We used to have quite a bit of fun with that, because you would turn around and say, "Oh, listen, this guy's coming. You guys get your video, get your phones out, get your cameras out. She's most likely going to charge." And it happened every time. Of course, the first time I saw her, Vera, who's 8 years old, wants to know if it's true that elephants have a very good memory. So Vera, it is true. I think I touched a bit on it last night about the matriarchal system and how the oldest, wisest female would lead the herd. And of course, this is because she knows exactly where the water is, where the most palatable grass is, and all of that she needs to remember. So they would have an excellent memory. Also, we've seen herds of elephants move past. There are the geese. We've seen herds of elephants move past old carcasses where other elephants have died, and they do it, they go touch every bone, they move it around a little bit, but always just sniffing with the trunk. So it could be that the elephant that died was actually part of the herd, or they're trying to figure out which individual it was. But I do believe that they remember where some of their family have died, and they go back just to pay a little bit of respect. I'm trying to count the chicks, and for now I can only see 6, but as you can see, they are quite well blended into the grass, and they move around a fair bit. Nice that both parents are performing parental duties. When there were eggs, there's a bit of action here at the back as well now. Sun comes out, everything else comes out. They're all looking back. So it might just be another watering buck there, or something else that chased them. Not a predator. No, or they're just playing around. Straight into the water. No problem with that at all. I wish we could see them swim. Of course, they're not just going to go for a swim for the fun of it. They'd rather just dive into the water if there was any form of danger. So these aren't the same ones we saw earlier. If you remember this, the other ones we saw earlier, they went over the dam wall, which is now to our right. These ones came from the left. The one in the middle there looks like it's the youngest. Quite thirsty, very, very, very water dependent. Never want to venture too far from water. But yeah, unlike other animals, they have absolutely no issue walking straight into the water. Of course, elephants do the same thing on a very hot day. Buffalo as well, straight into water, just dip their heads to drink.
We are still bumbling. Darby, my cameraman, has spotted a battle here in flight. There you go, cameraman, work your magic. Isn't that stunning? couldn't misidentify it for anything else. That is a marvelous face short tail Battleia. Wasn't that just wonderful? Look at the blue sky. It's maybe going to turn into a nice day after all. Battleias are one of my favorite birds to see in flight. That was really magical.
Okay, so we're still focused on the waterbuck. Some of them drinking, some of them grooming, and one eating. No, two eating. The other one chewing its cud. And just looking around. So they are mostly grazers. Oh, don't know what happened there. It's like the two just bumped into each other. You can also see a blacksmith lapwing right behind them. Another bird always found around water, called a blacksmith lapwing because the sound it makes, its call, sounds like a blacksmith heating or clubbing down on a piece of iron. Andrew, which animals are often found near the dam? So around this dam, mostly just Egyptian geese, waterbuck, the bushbuck, and impala. Strangely enough, we've not seen a single impala today. There's also usually a territorial wildebeest that is around quarantine. So quarantine is the clearings on this side. And let me try and lighten that up for you guys. Of course there are terrapins in water. So certain bird species. So there is a pied kingfisher, probably two of them around here. Woodlands kingfishers keep calling. The blacksmith lapwing. There's no three-banded plovers there. Oh, I wonder if it's time for them to move off. They are looking in this direction. So let's quickly have a look what they're seeing. Or what they might be hearing. Not too much. Kim, how come hippos let terrapins rest on their heads? Kim, I think it just does not bother them. You know, it's like the terrapin wants to sit on a higher piece of, well, out of the water really. So often they go to sandbanks, or why not use a hippo? I mean, I've seen a grey heron sit on the back of a hippo. So as long as it's not really hurting the hippo, why not? On the topic of terrapins, have you seen that amazing video of the terrapin trying to bite the lion while it was drinking? So I think the lion had a carcass, actually it was a male lion and a lioness. Something's bothering that waterbuck on the right. Yeah, and the terrapin just kept going for it. Of course, probably trying to get to the blood on the chin, on the hairs of the lions. And every single time the lion just had to move. Amazing to see such a large animal trying to get away from such a small thing. Ah, this one's staring straight at us, posing for the damn cam. I think it's being bitten by flies quite often. You can see shaking the head and even hopping around. Very playful mood. One really happy waterbuck. So yeah, earlier I was talking about the black and the white that sticks out, and if you notice when it turns its head again, it's got the black tips on the ears. So follow me sign. Wonder if it's going to give us another hop now. No, it might be done hopping. Okay. So that one's found a comfortable spot. Just gonna lie right next to the water. Not a bad spot at all. I mean, would be able to have quite a good view in front of it and behind it, being right next to the water. Oh, it looked like a lilac-breasted roller just flew in front of the camera. Jojo, I will ask about that. For as long as I've been here on Djuma, which is now, I think, 6 days, there's been no floods at the dam. It has definitely, I mean, the water level has risen. So it's gotten a bit fuller. I mean, since I've been here, I think we've nearly gotten about 100 or just over 100 mils of rain. Which is quite a bit. I think Marcel was working it out the other day, and that means on Djuma, about 1.2 billion liters of water has fallen. To put it into perspective, it's quite a bit. But flooding, I'm not sure. I've not been here that long. Two of them getting comfortable now. So a matter of time, and the other two will probably also lie down. The side of the dam still relatively quiet. And the clearings on the other side still very quiet. Clouds are looking amazing. Okay, I think let's send you over to Lauren just to check what she's getting up to.
checked again one more time. And it's not active. I'm losing my mind, and so is Darby, believe it or not. I don't think the Dreamer clan realise how much I love them. No, in all seriousness, it's just worth checking. I'm not having a lucky morning. One of those bumbles. And one day we'll get it active. Ribbon's obviously on a kill somewhere, staring into the eyes of a leopard so lovingly that we don't know where it is. Before I do leave, I just want to establish a little bit of the hierarchy. And it will be possible when you see interactions. It really will be. I mean, I've seen June in the dam cam, we saw Ntima, I've seen Ribbon, I've seen many of them. But I'm not going to be able to determine who sits where without those interactions, and that's why I'm frustrated. The frustrations are real, people, so real. It's not that I think she's moved. I think she's just... Oh no, don't run away. I think she's just occupied. Jessie, Ribbon's 8 years old. So she's a good age. She's sort of in her prime, if you like, for hyenas. She was born in 2013, but we don't know which month, so she's approaching 9, I guess. And Corky was born in 2009, 2010, somewhere in that region, so she's much older.
Morning, any updates, please?
Got a fright there. So she's much older, which also surprised me with regards to her choice in taking back the matriarchal position. I mean, again, high ranker's always a high ranker, but she is older. I mean, hyenas are said to live to 20 years old, give or take, in the wild. But naturally, this particular area has a really high predator density. And lions are a big problem for hyenas. But Ribbon's 8. Maybe she'll never go back to the top again. Maybe that was it. That was her time. And she needs to feed. So I think Ribbon's just off getting food, and I'm just not catching that window of getting the dyne active, and it's clearly driving me insane. But we'll get there. I always say the quiet days in the bush are the ones that teach you to appreciate the good days. Imagine if we had, the other day we had Tlalamba, Cubs and Sele and Maribes in one day. Imagine if that was the case every single day. You would definitely start to take things for granted. Okay, I'm going to check Treehouse Dam and then slowly start to bumble home for breakfast.
Quite a peaceful scene. All of them have now gone and laid down. So I think I'll just keep quiet again, so you can listen to the sounds of the bush for a little while. quite interesting how they chose to lie down. Notice all of them facing in different directions. View. One north, one south, one east, one west. Clever girls.
We made it to Treehouse Dam. Ah, more impala, overjoyed. What is that red on the water? Is that an algal bloom? That's fascinating. You get different types of algae. You get your reds, you get your blues and your greens. And then, it does look like an algal bloom. Fascinating. Some algal blooms can be really, really harmful, but I don't imagine this one is. The water body is stagnant after all. And it happens quite a lot around Chitwa. There's no influx. There's no fresh sort of input of water, if you like. Unless, well, the rain is an influx, I guess. But if a water body just sits too stagnant for a while, you will develop algal blooms. It's basically just a really rapid increase in the accumulation, if you like, of algae in fresh water. And you can see the algae's pigment, and you do get sort of different types of algae. I love algae. I studied it for a while. It's really, really fascinating when you're looking at tropical ecosystems or tropical marine ecosystems. A lot of people think it's boring, but I actually think it's really, really fascinating. You should Google my favorite algae. It's called a sailor's eyeball. Yep, you heard that right. Sailor's eyeball. And you'll see how beautiful it really is. It's also called Valonia ventricosa. Gee, animals just wouldn't. I mean, by accident, possibly. But if it was harmful, and I'm not saying that this one actually is harmful, normally harmful algal blooms actually contain organisms that will seriously lower the oxygen levels, creating a temporary hypoxic or even anoxic conditions in water, and that can obviously create a mass fish die-off, which happened in Chitwa a few years ago. And they also can contain toxins. So the fish have no choice. If the oxygen is removed from this water body, naturally the fish are going to suffer. But you're not going to find a bird or an impala going down to the water and consuming harmful algae. Just like you don't find animals eating toxic plants and then dying. They're not going to sort of put themselves in that position. But if it does get into the water system, or if they do drink it, if an animal does drink it by accident, water that has harmful algae blooms, they can severely affect them, make them really sick, or even kill, especially people, because of the toxins that some algal blooms contain. And it really will create dead zones in the water. So it may not create a dead zone for the entire water body. It may just create a harmful, temporary, hypoxic environment. And once the fish swim out of that area, then they'll get oxygen again. Hypoxic is low oxygen. Anoxic is no oxygen. I don't think this one is harmful, but it is just an algae buildup, I think, from red algae of sorts. And algal blooms really happen. I'm not talking about the harmful ones, but algal blooms will happen when there's excess nutrients in the water. And what that means is that there's no water coming in. There's no influx, as I've already mentioned. And you have hippos in here. You have buffaloes that come and wallow. You have elephants that go for a swim, and they're all defecating in the water, I'm afraid. So there'll be a massive excess of nutrients, mostly phosphorus and nitrogen, that's going to go into the water. And a higher concentration of these nutrients from all the use of all the other organisms that are putting it in there, that causes a growth in algae, which are using these nutrients to thrive and multiply. But algae itself is actually a wonderful, wonderful topic. Okay, Treehouse Dan, you did not deliver what I wanted you to. But that's okay. We're going to do one last loop up to quarantine. And you never know. Lily, you're saying very insightful. You are welcome. I think I was the only person in my group that chose to study algae, and I just loved it. But I mean, the coral reef algae, like the Valonia ventricosa, the sailor's eyeball, they're beautiful. They're really, really beautiful. All the types of algae that you get, Halimeda on the coral reefs. I mean, what we were just looking at was not terribly aesthetically pleasing, wasn't beautiful. But some of the algae that you really do get on the coral reef are absolutely stunning. Really, really stunning to look at, and it plays such a fundamental part in that. There's a relationship between coral and algae, that synthetic relationship that's integral to all life on a coral reef. Algae lives inside of coral, it's called zooanthele, and that is what keeps the coral alive. And when it leaves, you get coral bleaching. So algae plays such a bigger part than you would actually think in the role of the marine environment. Okay, I'm going to keep scratching around and see what else I can find. We're just doing our last scratch around. It's not been a very winning morning in terms of finding animals, but that's okay. There is always this afternoon. This is one of my favorite roads to check for tracks and signs of movement. You get attached to roads, I think, because of the sightings you've had on those roads. I mean, beautiful roads are beautiful roads, but I think you do get attached because you've had wonderful sightings in the past, and it makes you really appreciate that road a lot more. It's one of the old hyena dens. It's not active, but I always look, just in case. You never know. Not a single track on this road other than Impala. That's interesting. No one's been moving in this area. Toot toot. Got a bit of a roadblock.
Okay, so I've just been watching the clouds moving to see which direction it's going, and it seems to be moving more from the west to the east and moving rather quickly. Luckily for now it doesn't seem like it's too heavy, so hopefully the rain holds off for this afternoon game drive. Because of course we'd much rather be out there. According to my app, it's supposed to be raining now, but not yet. The clearing's still very quiet, nothing coming from that side. I was hoping for maybe a last minute elephant, but again, like I mentioned earlier, it is quite cool, the grass is wet. And nothing has come down to drink. All the water bucks still lying down, facing in different directions. And I think they've probably found their spot for the next couple of hours or so. Just sit and chew their cud. I think Tal was trying to say, well done on your damn cam duties. Tal, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've become a zoomie now. Basically taking up Odie's job. I know this afternoon I should be on camera, and then we'll put Odie in the driver's seat. Although saying that, I don't know if he's much of a good driver. Should test it one day. Okay, so I'm going to send you back to Lauren, who just wants to say thank you, and I will see you guys this afternoon. Have a lovely day.
Yes, I very much hope Wendy will be in action. We really need the two of us out. Sitting on damn cam's not terribly fun, I must say. So fingers crossed, everyone. Fingers and toes crossed that we can both be out this afternoon. But everyone in quarantine is having a very relaxed time, especially the wildebeest. You can just see the horns. That's how long the grass is. I mean, you know it's long, but sometimes it just isn't until you actually see a sort of comparison just how long it is. So it really is the time of the predators. Winter doesn't work in the predators' favor, but summer definitely does. They can really sneak up on animals. Winter, not so much. They're very exposed. Areas are a lot more open. Grass is dead and trampled down. All the sort of vegetation loses, well, not all, but most vegetation loses its leaves. But summer, well, it's the time of the predators.
Sol coming for Hilton. Hilton there? Morning, Sol. Have you got an update, or where are you guys at the moment?
All the impala are huddled closely together. Sometimes that's a clue that something's walked on the other side. we'll investigate as we go home. And I'm sure, as many of you know, I will continue to check the hyena doing. But at least we got Intima. It was very nice to see her, and she's looking fabulous. Fabulous, even. That was a quiet one this morning, but you really do have to sometimes put the effort in to just check the roads and try and pick up tracks, and then at least you know where that animal is moving and where they're not moving. In my case, it's where they're not moving. But I know you all want to see Kalamba and Cups again, so we will do our absolute best. But on that note, I think it's time for the team to go get breakfast. I'm sure everyone is starving. But like I said, hopefully both vehicles will be out this afternoon, who knows. And as usual, a big thank you to you all for jumping on board. It's always a pleasure to take you bumbling, so please do join us again this afternoon. Until then, have a great day.